I'm not sure if you guys are getting in this. We're just getting set up. Looks like we're close. So I guess the idea is we're gonna go take a walk down from the power stand down to First Beach. So hopefully no one gets seasick. So yeah, so first of all, here's our First Beach power stand. You can see it's a solar slash methanol fuel cell system. Up above you can see the summit. Beautiful day for a summit. Yeah, hopefully this Wi-Fi will last. It should last down here. This is where we had the presentation last year. So this is the view of what a visitor would have coming down to First Beach. The grass is growing like crazy. So right about now you can really smell the walrus. It's that just thick, that thick smelling scat. Lots of digested clams and soft shell crabs and other marine invertebrates. It's heavy. It burns the eyes, but no, it's not that bad. So you can start to hear them, and now's the time that we start to quiet down. And let me just adjust everything. Make some small adjustments. Okay, we're back. So welcome to July 13th. Yeah, we're here at First Beach. It's a little windy. Yeah, hopefully you guys are hearing this. We're going to try to answer some of your questions today. Like I said before, if you were here now, you'd really smell them. And hear them, and so let me do one more check on this, and we'll get off and running. Margaret. Okay, so we're back, and yeah, we're gonna try some audio things here real quick. Yeah, so hope everyone's having a great day. Margaret and I just showed up to First Beach, and yeah, we're here to clip in and answer your guys' questions. Whoa. And yes, hold on one second. You want to? Okay, we're live. Hope everyone's having a great day. Hey Margaret, how are you doing today?
Good. Good morning, everyone.
So our first question comes in from Tony in Minnesota, and he wonders, when we collect the tusks, like how do we physically get the tusks out of the walrus's head? on a dead walrus. How do we remove? I guess the question is for you, Margaret. How do we remove ivory from a dead walrus if we unfortunately find one, which is a life and death thing?
It's pretty difficult, and they're really firmly rooted in there. And usually it takes a variety of tools. We've tried using chisels and saws. Basically, it's an unpleasant project. They're pretty firmly rooted in there, and it depends how old the mort is.
Great question. Yeah, sometimes they'll pop right out of the skull, and sometimes they'll you gotta kind of chisel it. So what do you see here? What are you looking at now, Margaret? See like a younger fella down there? I see a nice 5-year-old. He looks pretty cute. You can tell he's got a lot of that brown hair and the short tusks. So, okay, the next question is here. It's like, how many campers have we had this year? Well, this year we were lucky enough to catch a few of the herring fishermen. They came over for a day trip when they had a down day between herring openers. The herring season is late April to early May. What was the name of that vessel?
I don't remember.
Oh, the Toya. I'm sorry, Latoya Bay. And then we've had a handful of campers, and we had a big-time production company come. What were they filming for? What was the BBC doing here?
They were working on an Alaska special that'll be in conjunction with PBS that will be airing at the end of this month.
People are curious about the archaeology.
Sorry, we're having a bit of trouble getting the questions here.
Give some facts or just fill up the air. No? Boy, that's a beautiful chiming noise. Hopefully everyone can pick that up. It's interesting. They say the main purpose of chiming is for mating, but we sure hear them chiming a lot here with just fellas. What other sounds have you heard?
I'm not sure how good the audio is over the live cam, but we get to hear a variety of vocalizations, including sort of train whistle noise that travels really long distances. You can often hear that for a long way up at the cabin and when they're swimming offshore. As well as the more common snuffling and grunting and roaring noises they make.
Okay, it looks like our questions are online. So this is a continuation of the first question. Is Round Island still open to visitors, and can you tell us how to reach it from the lower 48? Just planning for next summer. That's an excellent question. Yeah, so the logistics of getting to Round Island are you need to first make it to Anchorage, Alaska. I know a lot of people fly from Seattle. And then from there, you need to fly to Dillingham, which is kind of the hub here in southwestern Alaska, the Bristol Bay region. And then from there, you take a bush plane. And once you're in Togiak, you'll meet up with a water taxi, and it'll take you the 30, basically straight out to sea. Well, I guess you go along the coast a little bit. And then, we'll maybe put up a link, but yeah, we go through exclusively with Togiak Outfitters. That's Paul Markoff. But yeah, we still have a good solid month of camping, so if there's anybody out there, come on out. Are there any unique observations made about the walrus this year, or any other fauna? I have to think about that. Have you seen anything unique? Oh yeah, we've had a really unique experience this year, something we've never seen before on the island. Maybe Margaret can tell you a little bit more about our friend Barkley.
Oh yeah, we saw the first California sea lion that showed up here at Round Island. A bit of a surprise and kind of exciting for us. California sea lions have a range that typically extends from Baja California up into southeast Alaska as far as the Gulf of Alaska, and in the last 15 years or so they've been moving west and north, 15, 20 years I guess. And although they had been sighted before in the Aleutians and Pribilofs, we hadn't had one at Round Island yet. And while Devin was here, we had our first California sea lion turn up first with the walruses at the north end of the island, and then he found his way down to the sea lions at the south end of the island, where he stayed for over a month and was there almost every day. Pretty exciting.
Big shout out to Devin Lisak. She came out here and covered for me for a couple weeks. That was great. Thanks, Devin. But yeah, even if you couldn't see the California sea lion, you could hear him. He was just loud and boisterous, and just that classic bark, bark, bark that you hear everywhere around sea lions. Okay, question number 3. I'm noticing more vocalizations from walrus this year, both in terms of grunting and chiming. Have you noticed any differences from past years? I would say it. I mean, there's variation in how much you hear it. Last year was a really low year for walrus, so I'd say last year. I'm sorry, I'm looking at this one little guy just smooching on this bigger guy's back. Classic. I would say, yeah, it comes and goes. They're going off right now.
There may be something to do with the atmospheric conditions and how much the microphones pick up as well.
Oh, good point. Yeah, calm days, you're bound to hear more. All right, question number 5. Oh no, 4. So if a person approached the walruses, would they run away? Absolutely. I would say yes, they would. We've seen foxes cause them to run away, and they're pretty used to the foxes. Yeah, they're very skittish on land. They definitely feel most safe in the water, and they're pretty. Yeah, as you can see, they're pretty. Just their weight is a huge impediment for them on land. We've seen a few disturbances this year, maybe because of rock slide, maybe because of airplane noise. They can turn on the jets though if they want to. They can they can be pretty fast if they're heading towards water. Okay. Question number 5. It's asking about ice flow issues, data from the satellite tagging, and food supply. Okay, so as most of you know, these are all male walrus down here in Bristol Bay, and that kind of feed down here, and the females and the young are up north, and basically the males get neglected. All the data, all the research is going after the the females and the calves. They want to learn about productivity and the habits of the mothers and the calves. So unfortunately, we don't have any satellite tracking data for these males. Any current satellite data for these males. There's historic data that shows them traveling around, but yeah. And then this year was pretty icy. We came out to the island in March, and there was still complete sea ice all over the bay. Let's see. Let's see. Question number 6. If you had one concrete wish for Round Island, what would it be aside from remedying factors not totally in your control? Do you have anything on your wish list there, Margaret? We could have bike trails. No, actually, yeah. Let's put in some bike trails. This is a kind of a cool spot. I would say my wish would be to have more visitors. Come on out. We're open for business. Want to read some questions?
Could you describe what a typical day for a staff person there? Also, could you talk about your favorite recipe meal to eat on Round Island?
Well, that's easy, the recipe. But how about yours?
I like it when Ryan cooks.
I like quesadillas. So typical day. Maybe I'll try to back this up so I don't fall off this cliff. Jeepers. Okay. Okay, so there's me.
So we do daily walrus counts as well as a daily sea lion count?
Yeah, and so the walrus count is, we have 3 random times. They can be at 9 a.m., 2 p.m., or 5 p.m. The good question is why it's not 9, 1, and 5, but maybe uneven spacing adds to the randomness of the counts. So if it's a 9 o'clock one, well, I guess regardless, we wake up alternately at 8 o'clock and we'll turn on the VHF, kind of monitor the channel for any visitors, and then we'll do a little post to the Explore chat page, and then we'll wait a half hour for the photo to upload. And then at 9 o'clock, every day we call Eunice Dysuk there in Dillingham, kind of to check in and let her know that we're all right. But then, yeah, so say if I go north and you go south, what's it like going south? And what beaches do you see?
So the cabin, if you have seen the maps of the island, the cabin is sort of in the middle in a north-south direction, and we have 4 walrus beaches we check going south from the cabin, and do those at the pre-assigned random time. First we come here to First Beach. Our cabin's just up over this hill, and count the walruses here, make any other flora and fauna observations, then continue on to the 3 other beaches in this direction. Sometimes Second Beach is really busy, and then from there we can continue on to East Cape to see the sea lions. And at sea lions we do a count. We do occasional composition counts where we, basically count what percentage of males, females, adolescents, and yearlings. And
yeah,
then,
we can also do age and sex.
Yeah, and then also we do a brand recite survey. So there are a certain percentage, 1% I guess, of the stellar sea lions in Western Alaska are branded with numbers, and we're just documenting which ones turn up here at Round Island over the summer.
And then, so she went south, and so I would have gone north. So the first site is campground, and then it goes around Boat Cove to Flat Rock, up to North Beach Cove, and then up to the big observation point where you can observe Main Beach. And Main Beach is the biggest count. And then if the weather's good, we'll go straight up the Traverse Trail over to West Main and try to get a count on the backside of the island, which can be pretty fun. I went there yesterday, yeah, it was gorgeous. So, and then once we do counts, then this year we've done a lot of trimming of the grass. You can see how much hay we have here on the island. And there's a steam whistle. But yeah, a typical day, and then we take turns cooking dinner, and I did laundry the other day. That was, I guess, atypical. I want to read the next question. I think it's number 9.
What are the walrus counts like this year compared to last year? Do they fall within the expected ranges?
Yes, I would say that the counts this year are very normalized to the average. Last year was, like everyone knows, was an El Nino event, and we had really low numbers last year. So definitely numbers are up from last year. Ed could probably speak more on this. He'll have the data in front of him. I think there's kind of a new average from 5 years ago that is a bit lower. Again, that's something maybe we can post on the chat board.
Any thoughts on why the gentlemen seem to have a fondness for Chiming Rock?
Chiming Rock. Well, it's kind of a way. First Beach here is a nice protected little cove, little snug harbor for them. I like to think they're all here anyway, and that's like a nice bit of granite that pokes out into the water. And do they eat barnacles?
There's it's not the only place.
Whoa! Bit of action. Ooh.
It's not the only place on the island that the walruses chime, and there's something I don't personally know about, but they seem to like putting their head against a rock to make that chiming noise, and they also do it at Flat Rock and a couple other places. Second Beach has a big sort of protruding rock like this as well. There must be something about the acoustics or something, or some tasty treat down there.
Yeah, whereas Main Beach, there's no real big rocks. It's all that gravel beach, but they still chime like heck at Main Beach.
The next question is also about chiming.
Okay. So I'm fascinated with chiming. Any ideas regarding what prompts them to do this? Well, yeah, this is a fun topic. I'm going to say essentially the males just will serenade. In order to mate, they'll serenade the females. And I've read from Bud Fay, the author of The Ecology and Biology of the Pacific Walrus, that they've been observed in the ice packs. The women will be on the ice and all the men will be in the water, and they'll be chiming and clacking and whistling and grunting. And the walrus definitely has the biggest vocalization range of any pinniped. That's for sure. But we were just talking about that. I mean, it's supposed to be a mating call, but they're just chiming all the time. And I think it's also, when they inflate their bag, they're going to chime, just the nature of acoustics. And yeah, it's amazing. And we have some great recordings of some chiming that maybe we can put up. A few years back, Diane Okonek, the past refuge manager, and shout out to Brian and Diane, and shout out to Ben and Diane, Diana and Brian, Ben and Diane rather. But yeah, she had a hydrophone and put that hydrophone in the water, and just got some amazing recordings, and that's something we can put up on the chat. I guess the term I think people like to use a lot is pharyngeal pouch. Okay, are walruses targets for poaching? Yes. It's not. Yes, it happens. And so they are protected by the by federal law. It's
And CITES.
what's that?
And CITES.
And CITES. There was the Marine Mammal Protection Act that was put in place, and that covers whales and pinnipeds and sirenids and I guess polar bears too. Polar bears are marine mammals, as well as sea otters. Are walruses mild-tempered? Walruses are. What would you say, Margaret? Are walruses mild-tempered?
I don't know. I think some of these guys aren't being very mild-tempered right now.
I'd say they're mild. They're pretty mild-tempered when they're asleep. And now these guys can be vicious. I mean, they'll just tusk each other in the face. And I think a lot of the tusking we see here is just play fighting. They're not going to really ramp up to the big event, which is mating season, and which occurs in the winter. And they can be very calm. They can be very aggressive, maybe mild. Oh, I skipped some. Shoot, sorry. Any new stellar sea lion news? Well, we have. So the question is if there's any new stellar sea lion news. And I guess the news is we haven't seen Barkley in
2 weeks.
2 weeks. So we think the California sea lion has moved on. The numbers are ramping back up. I think they're in the 200s. 200, 250 animals counted. We're seeing some nursing. So there's no pups. But there's like 1-year-old. I've seen a couple 1-year-olds, and they'll nurse up to 3 years of age. And a really funny thing to see with sea lions is you can have 3 of them nursing. You can have the old mother who had a baby 3 to 4 years ago, and at 3 to 4 years, a sea lion female will reach sexual maturity, so she can have a pup. So we've seen it where a pup is nursing a 4-year-old, which is nursing the mother still. So That was a great example of a little guy tusking a bigger guy. Okay. The question is, how long do they live? This is a great question. They live to the ripe old age of 41 years old, give or take a few years, but yeah, pretty long lived. Do they have their babies at the same location every year? I can answer this one. No, they do not, because they have their babies on ice, and the ice is always rotating. I guess you could say it'd be the same location. It would be at the edge of the ice, near the water, but I think just the nature of moving ice is it's not the same location.
Sea lions, on the other hand, do go back to, the females will go back to their natal beaches where they were born, and sea lions have established rookeries where they pup.
Here's a good
Our sea lions go to Umiak, I believe, the females.
Down there, yeah, down there, the Aleutian Islands near Unalaska Pass. This is another question. Are they protected? Yes. They are protected, again, by, they're federally protected by the Marine Mammal Protection Act. And then here on the island, we give them sanctuary, and we're a state-run agency, so I guess they're doubly protected. And then these guys they're listed as stable. The population is listed as stable, but the sea lions we have are listed as endangered. And so the sea lions are also endangered. We love the sea lions. That's why we keep bringing them up. Do the females chime when nursing? I've read that they do. There's a great article about how the females will, if they're nursing in the water, they'll inflate their bags and allow the pup to nurse while they're floating. I'm not sure if they're intending to chime, but I think just the nature of them inflating the pharyngeal pouch will cause a chime. We're going to try to talk to some of our federal friends and see if we can get some video of females chiming or females inflating their pharyngeal pouches. Okay, the next question is, do related males ever travel together or gather together at Round Island? I would have to say yes.
I think it would be fairly hard to know if they were related, but presumably young males learn about preferred haul-outs by following older males, and they do seem to travel in groups.
Yeah, and unlike the red fox here on the island, who form pair bonds, a walrus, they basically fight to see who will be the alpha male, and so there's a very large chance that a lot of these fellows here share the same father, where the male will mate with as many available females as possible. So there's going to be a lot of similar genes from alpha males kicking around, and they definitely go to sea together to feed, and they definitely hang out on the beach together. Okay, the next question is talking about walrus predation. And who feeds on walrus? And how does this affect their ability to get to or stay on Round Island? Well, there's the apex predator of the ocean is the orca, and they've been known to attack walrus. I guess polar bears can attack them on land. So I guess the question is, what would a walrus do if a polar bear was coming at it from the land, or if there was an orca coming at it from the ocean? you have any speculation on that? There's no right or wrong answer on this one. This is a hard one to test in a lab, but
And in relation to Round Island, we don't get polar bears this far south, so they don't have land predators besides humans in Bristol Bay. And orcas do come into Bristol Bay. They've been seen at least once in the past at Round Island, though we've never seen one. The story from when they came here was that the walruses were rushing ashore when they were approached by an orca.
I sort of think that, I think the walrus would take its chance with a polar bear. The orca is going to have way more mass on a polar bear. This is all speculation. And then humans, yes, and humans. There's a few questions. A question was posed last year was interesting. Do sharks ever predate on a walrus? And we tried to find anecdotal evidence and couldn't find very much, but once they hit the ripe old age of 40 and die and pass away, then the foxes will start predating on them. Or we've seen foxes eat carcass, but that's a different subject. Okay, how much time do they spend on beach versus water? I think the exact number, the average that they said they stayed on land was 2.7 days. So, yeah, they'll come and rest for 2 to 3 days, and then they'll go out and feed for 5 to 7 days. And they're very cyclical. That they'll come en masse to land. We'll get our high numbers, and just looking at the data, that it'll go down to a low, and they all go out to feed, and they'll come back, and they're all resting. And so yesterday, our counts were back on a rise. We had about 500 on the island, and that's that's trending up. So we wouldn't be surprised to see more today, maybe more tomorrow, peaking on Sunday. What's today? Oh no, it's Wednesday. My watch says it's Wednesday the 11th. Anyways, do walruses become attached like dogs or cats to people? How do walruses feel about humans? Well, it's an interesting question between cats and dogs, where, again, a dog will form pair bonds, but a cat won't. There's like a pride of lions. I don't think a walrus has ever even tried to been domesticated, but there's the example of orphaned walruses down at the Sea Life Center, and walruses they need constant contact, and you'll see it with these orphans. They need a 24-hour-a-day handler, and those little walrus calves certainly will attach and become attached to a human. We watched a video about that, the Jacques Cousteau one. That little guy seemed pretty attached.
There's a walrus calf at the Alaska Sea Life Center right now, who's been featured prominently in local Alaska news, and you can look up pictures of him at ADN.
Oh yeah, big shout out to Betsy Palferman. She's been down there taking photos and posting them on the chat board. And Betsy was able to visit the island this year. That was great to finally meet her. He just tussed him in his little butt. Are the walrus here every year? Yes. So the sanctuary was created a year after statehood. That would put it at 1960. That's 57 years ago. Gosh, so we'll be coming up on our 60th anniversary. And then so we have a baseline of data from that time, and then there's also been, I think, Russian explorers were here in the 1800s, and there's maybe 1818 was the first Russian explorer. But well beyond that, the people of this area have been hunting walruses for literally thousands of years. The archaeology on this island is really interesting. It goes back 5,000 plus. Artifacts have been found over 5,000 years ago. There was a definite other group of artifacts from 2,000 years ago. And it's really interesting. In one of their lodges, there's petrified ivory tusks used as stakes. Okay. The next question is, do they lose their teeth or tusks? Want to field this one?
Other tusks can definitely break off. You can see a few down here that only have one, or have one short one or two short ones. So yeah, they can definitely break off. They will continue growing throughout the walrus's life. So, for example, you can see ones with different length tusks, and that could be one that broke off a few years ago and has been growing out.
Yeah, and once the tusk breaks, it will keep growing, kind of like a beaver's tooth, and then all the other teeth are pretty interesting. They're all molars for like kind of grinding and smashing up clams and crab and other marine invertebrates. So the tusks are elongated canines, and it's just wild that they've developed over the years, because
there's one handsome napper down there with his tusks crossed at the tip.
So here's an example of an ivory tusk. So this is like a medium-sized one, I would say. You can see inside is the root, and the outside cementum, I think is what it's called. And yeah, you can tell this guy's been to the dentist. It's looking nice and white. Okay, we just got a question. Oh no, they're asking if we can stop trying to be funny. Okay, we'll stop. Can walruses swim for long distances? Yes, they can. They are just so well adapted to the water. They spend, I think, 2/3 of their life in the water. And so the females are highly migratory, where they'll come down with the ice in the winter. They'll come down here to Bristol Bay, and then they'll head back north. And where these guys kind of stop going north at a certain age, and they will go out to feed. Like these guys bounce around from Round Island to Cape Seniavin down to the south, or Cape Newenham to the north, and there's a good chance some of these guys are swimming over to Russia, to the haulouts over there. So females make the migration every year. There's more ice on the northward migration because the ice is melting and receding. But in the fall, when they come back down, there's going to be less ice for them. So they're spending a lot of time in the water. And they're just beautiful swimmers, really. Like when you get to see them with some nice polarized lenses, and you look down, and it's just spectacular. But and they can sleep at sea, and yeah, they're built for the ocean. Okay, here's one. The walrus tusks are so cumbersome. What purpose do they serve?
I think they are considered a secondary sexual characteristic, maybe, or they're for arguing amongst themselves and showing dominance at the ice floes at breeding time. They can also use them to hook on to ice floes, pry themselves up, pull themselves up onto ice floes, or just hook on and float around and nap.
Yeah. So this animal evolved in the ocean on the ice. There's some really nice aerial photos of what they can, I think it's up to 30 centimeter ice. They can chip through. They can chip through the ice and get back in the water. Say if they can punch through the ice if they need some breathing holes. And they certainly will spar during mating season. These guys, you'll see, it's an incredible amount of force that they can put into these tusks when they jab each other, and then it's pretty spectacular. Okay, do the walruses use their pharyngeal pouches for anything besides chiming? Yes, they can just inflate those airbags and then rest ashore. It props their heads up so they can catch some Z's.
You mean sleep at sea?
Catch some Z, yeah.
Yeah, it's like a buoyancy control device. They can use it to float when they're at sea and sleep while they're floating.
And yes, we've heard that they are able to nurse. Well, we've read that they'll inflate them to nurse it in the water. Also, do you know if captive walruses develop the sexual nodules that the adult mature wild males have? Yes. Those are their bosses, and those are, it's like a coat of armor. They did a study on them. It's exactly the same as their blubber, but it's just put around their neck, kind of the area where they like to jab, and I think that's another way that they can show a female that they are just the big, burly, well-armored suitor. They look warty, but they're not warts. They're just extra skin.
This guy's got a great example. He's got some good bosses. The guy hauling out right now.
Or sleeping, or napping. Okay, the next question we have is it's from Maine. Okay. They asked us about our cabin, and we've actually been watching the DIY network. There's a great show on there called Maine Cabin Masters, and they've offered to come out here. It says Dixie and his crew will come out here and redo our cabin. The cabin actually was redone 4 or 5 years ago, and we had a group of volunteers come out and stay on the island and build up the cabin. It was pretty nice. So thanks Maine Cabin Masters for that offer. I'll check with my boss and see what he says. But I'm just trying to think if there's any other questions I've missed. Here we go. How long can they stay submerged? I've read that it's up to 10 minutes. And then kind of on their feeding runs, they'll go down and go suck up some clams for up to 10 minutes, give or take. Well, I think that's all the questions we have today. Thank you guys for joining us on this live chat. Hopefully we answered all your questions, and if you have any more, just post them on the chat board. And that was a funny sound. We're just laughing at the walrus. So enjoy the day. I'm Ryan. This is Margaret. See you later.